Hello there, Optimus Prime here. Today I would like to take a little trip down Nostalgia Alley and have a look at Ramen Toys 80s Commander version 80s. It's all very 80s. Join me, if you will, in booth mode. Booth mode extreme! And here we have Ramen Toys 80s Commanders version 80s 3-pack version 80s. 4 times is 80s mentioned on the front of this very box. Let's have a quick look. So we have each of the main characters. They haven't been named in this set. In fact, they've been very loose on any form of naming anything with this. So I will use their original Kenner names. So we have Max Ray, Ace McCloud, and Jake Rockwell with their appropriate assault weapon systems, which we'll get onto in a minute. They are shown here in lovely artwork. And the logo is very reminiscent of the original logo on the 80s Kenner action figures. And let's just flip this around, and there we have the artwork again, which is apparently drawn by Roberto Gabriel Garcia, which luckily is quite easy to pronounce, otherwise I would completely mess that up. There we go, some actually really quite nice artwork, I like that. These pictures, incidentally, are based upon more the original version of these figures. This is the second version that they brought out of these. The first versions were slightly more their own designs. Not massively so, but there were some differences. They had different head sculpts, and the colours were more along sort of more modern action figure designs, in that they were painted and washed with an ink wash, a bit like sort of McFarlane figures or something along those lines. So that is that. Now I'm going to try and open these in the booth, which is not always particularly easy, but we shall see. Let's just pull this out. Luckily the box itself has this very nice little inner sleeve, which makes it very easy to get out, because clamshells can be notoriously irritating to pull out and indeed get back into the casings. So yes, so as you can see, they've been reasonably posed within the packaging. So they've all got their helmets, their distinctive helmets under the arms, and Ace is doing a little salute there because, you know, why not? And yeah, so they're looking pretty good. Let's just get this out of here. It's very nice, reflective, silver, chrome packaging. And what we can do now is we can just pop this front part off and have a look at. Oops, so many noises. Let's stay up. Yes. And here are all of their weapon systems. So we have a weapon system, a complete weapon system for each figure, as well as the sort of fairly standard array of different hands. We have Max Ray's cruiser weapon system here, which looks dead on for the 80s original, with the sort of missile launcher, the jetpack, little fin, the little gunny thing, and his little turbines. Ace McCloud's what's it called? Sky Knight set here. I didn't just jot down the names for all these because my aged memory has forgotten. He's got 2 jet engines. He's got a front sort of weapon system here with some guns and missiles and things. He's got missiles, and he's got a backpack and a hand. And finally, Jake Rockwell, his Fire Force weapons system has all of these things, including a big chunky missile launcher and some other bits and bobs. So that's what you get in the box. Now, I've actually had these for a couple of days, but I've been waiting to do this video, so I haven't actually released these yet, which has been difficult. pop this out. Get this out of the way. There we go. Now let's just, oops, grab each of these guys out. So here is Max. Let's pop him down out the way. Go up there, I think. Just do there. And the helmet on the side there. And some nice little protection here to stop paint rub, which is great. I believe the first versions of these had a bit of an issue with paint rub because they didn't protect them. Now, Ramen Toy, they've only been around a little while, and these are the first figures they produced. Well, this is the second version of the first figures they produced. They've got a really great presence on Facebook and I assume other social media, and they're very much they very much seem like fans who are producing these things as fans, and they're very much listening to the people who have been buying them. Now, they've done like early bird purchases for all of the figures so far directly from them. I got these from Kapow, who managed to secure getting a few of them in, and yeah, they're just kind of cool. But they've done a few more. They're working on a few more characters in the Centurions kind of range. They're also working on some of the stuff sort of more in line with the original 80s figures. So they're doing I've forgotten his name. Pooh. One of the unreleased figures that came out from the original line, because the original line was only 3 good guy characters and a few bad guys, and the line itself only lasted a year. So the fact that they have some longevity love is pretty good. I'm going to turn my ring light back on because I turned it off whilst I was doing the packaging because it was very reflective. So here we have Max Ray. He has his very Tom Selleck-esque moustache and very nice vibrant green body. His exo-frame armour, which is this stuff that they wear, that weirdly they seem to be able to put on like almost like a wetsuit in the show, which implied that all of this stuff was sort of rubbery. Now in the lore and the show, these suits enabled a guardian or protector or somebody whose name was Crystal Kane in orbiting Skyvault space station to teleport weapon systems directly onto their bodies as a need arose, which meant that these little pegs would become filled with all the weapons, and they would have weapons, and they'd be immediately able to get into scrapes and fights against Duck Terror and Hacker and their robot legions. Yeah, so that's that. Let's have a quick look at the actual figure and the posability. So first off, I'll just have a quick look at these shoulder pad things. They're rubbery plastic and they're attached there, so they've got a bit of give so that you can move the arms about quite a lot without these actually getting in the way. So that's pretty cool. I quite like that. Posability wise, you've got the usual backwards and forwards, out 90 degrees, double elbow. The joints are they're quite free. I wouldn't say loose, but easy to move. And you've got the sort of swivel there. Now, as I say, these are the second version of these figures that have been out, and I've read that they've had a few improvements in terms of tolerances and stuff. So the first versions were a little bit more stiff and hard, but these appear to be a little bit more free. Good waist swivel there. With the legs, you've got sort of a fair bit of movement up there, and behind there appears to be, the joint appears to allow the leg to move up and down a little bit, so it doesn't get impeded quite so much. And just pop it back in there. You've got a thigh swivel, you've got a double knee, which actually works pretty good, and then there's no shin swivel, and then the foot is sort of ball jointed, I think. It's pretty good. Waist is a little bit loose, but not too bad. All in all, for a 6-inch third-party action figure, quality wise it seems pretty good. Oops, haven't tried popping a hand off. Oh yeah, nice and easy. The usual sort of ball and socket joints there. Okay, and let's have a quick look at the, the head. Double neck, so you've got the neck joint in the bottom there, and where it meets the head, and it appears to be a couple of ball joints, so you've got a fair range of movement. Now the helmets, they are solid, hard plastic, so you can't just pop them onto the figures. What you need to do is separate the two halves, because, yep, I think they might even be moulded from clear plastic, looking at that. So do be careful with them. And pop it on. Make sure you get it so that his eyes look about right, because you can get it on wrong. And then pop the back on, like so. Fits really well, nice and secure, and looks pretty wicked. So that's him. Now moves everything around so he's not going to stand up. Fantastic. Okay. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all of these lovely weapon systems out, and then in order to make this a somewhat shorter video than normal, I will have a quick review of them with the weapon systems in place, and go from there. So I shall return in seconds for you, but minutes for me. So Max and Jake are fully kitted out, and I thought I would show you how the weapons fit on with Ace here. Let's first get into some kind of more of a neutral pose. Head sculpt there. A little bit, I don't know, it's a bit uncanny valley going with these figures. The head sculpts, they do look a lot more like their 80s counterparts, more so than the original head sculpts that came with the other versions, which I don't have, but I've seen plenty of pictures of. One thing I didn't note, the bodies for all three figures are identical, just with a different deco. The exo-frames are exactly the same, whereas the original figures, each figure had a unique styling to their exo-frames. Not massively different, because the positioning of the holes was always exactly the same, due to the gimmick of customization and the ability to use different weapon systems with different figures. But yes, so that is a thing. Let's just pop off his saluting hand and give him just a more sort of relaxed hand pose. Oop. Oh. No, Max's hands went on really easily. This one seems to be a little stiffer. There we go. Still, nowhere near as painful as some of the Joy Toy figures I've had to deal with. There we go. So, looking good, looking stoic, blue eyes, all-American pilot dude. Okay, so let's pop his helmet on. Just separate that out. His helmet, obviously looking a little bit more like kind of a flight suit helmet, as he is the air specialist. And just secure that with the pegs. Boop. There we go. Not 100% straight, but there we go, that'll do. Okay, so then we have the weapon systems themselves. Now, in the original versions, they had a unique, like, peg system that clipped in and then held it really securely, whereas these have gone for just your standard straight round pegs with hexagonal, no, that's too many, however many sides that shape is. Oh, yeah. Push that in there, goes in nice and easily. Now the original version had, oh yes, it has exactly what the old version had, which is sort of joined wings, different configurations, like a really tiny F-14. This weapon obviously on pegs, but it is there if you want it. The original versions had a rotating section here, so twisting some of the weapons would cause either things to fire, like on Max, if you twisted this, his missile at the back would launch, and the same with Jake, but with Ace, twisting the thing on the front would make those wings do that somewhat pointlessly. But hey, it was a toy gimmick for a toy for children in the 80s, so therefore it was cool. These are bent a little bit out of shape, but that's not too bad. Okay, so that's that. And there's that. Now these missiles, they can go in a couple of different positions on him. Either on the, I always used to favour putting them on the backpack like that. But equally, you could have them as weapons on his arms. In fact, we're going to go with them on his arms because that still looks pretty cool. Yeah, missile arms. And then his thrusters, which again, they could either go onto the wings or they could be placed on his legs, which again is more that it looks cool than it would have any real functionality. I don't quite want to go in all the way, but hey, that'll do. So let's just pop him with his mates. And yes, they are reasonably stable, even with, he says that as they fall down, even with the weapon systems in place. So there we have them in all of their glory. And I've got to say, they look fantastic. They really do pop. They look very 80s. I'm a big fan of sort of clean colours. I do like the realism in some figures, with sort of the washed out stuff like that McFarlane does a lot of, and to get the detail out by giving things an ink wash does look fantastic in some circumstances. But for these, they just look absolutely epic in these colours. A bright, well, sort of pastel blue, the bright green, the yellow on Jake. They just all look really good. Let's have a quick look at each of these before having a bit of a chat about something else. So he's got his sort of Gatling gun on the front there, which you could rotate on the original toy, and that would fire the missile. The missiles here, it's solid. The missile just sits in there. It doesn't fire at all, which is a little bit disappointing, but at the end of the day, doesn't really make a lot of difference. This is really nice. It's like a searchlight there, which is a clear plastic and painted silver underneath, and then sort of a matte green for the rest of it. I do like the matte green, very military. Although he is the ground forces troop, so therefore is bright yellow because that's camouflage apparently. Not. Yeah, he looks particularly awesome. And again, all of the weapon systems can plug into anywhere there is a slot spare. And here is Max, lasery thing there, and his Finn with a gun there, and his two little. So those would probably be that way around. Probably that way around. Doesn't really matter. They look cool either way. And again, missile launcher that is just. Oh, that's disappointing. Bit of a paint. What's that? Can't tell if that's paint chip or additional paint. Either way, doesn't look too bad. I'm not going to complain. And that just pops in there. It doesn't fire, unfortunately. But this, again, this is has a couple of pegs which peg into the backpack, like so, and fits in there really nicely. And as you can see as well, he does just about a little bit of posing. Stand up. I don't think you would get a straight pose out of him with all of this chonk on his back. If we stood him up with his legs straight and his legs together, I'm willing to bet that he is not gonna stand up. Oh, he does stand up. Well, possibly the fin and the outstretched arm have just about. Oh, nope, just touch him and he falls over. But have just about managed to hold him up. So the original versions of these figures were about 7 inches. So one of the reasons I think that the line failed was that it was incompatible with any other toy line. They were bigger than He-Man, they were bigger than G.I. Joes and Star Wars, and Transformers obviously had their own not scale for all of their figures anyway, so there was very little you could do to cross-play. So what you'd have is the very limited villains available. So you had Hacker and Doc Terror, who were the two main villains. They were sort of cyborg men, and they had a legion of drones that they used against the guys. But yeah, there were a few other figures planned for the series, for the line, but unfortunately, it did not last beyond the first initial line and one season, albeit 65 episodes of the show. Ooh, there we go. That's what I was saying about the joints. They're not loose, but they are not tight. Does that make sense? They're not floppy, but they have a smoothness to them. There's no ratchet in there, which means that they're very easy to move, which means they may fall, but they're holding their poses well enough. Let's just have a quick comparison to some other 6-inch action figures and see where they go. Now, everybody should own a figure of Jeff Goldblum. I currently only have what's his name? Him from Thor Ragnarok, the dude, not the collector, the other one. Oh, that's annoying. Anyway, he's quite tall anyway, so you can see that he doesn't quite match up, but he's more of a true scale figure. And let's go for a G.I. Joe figure, which I just happen to have a Snake Eyes. It's almost as if I've recently done a video on Snake Eyes. And here he is next to Max. Posability wise, similar, but Max with all of his armour and everything else it's a little bit shorter than Snake Eyes there. Maybe Snake Eyes is just a taller man. Who can say? But I don't think they'd look terribly out of place in your G.I. Joe collection, for example. But yeah, obviously the details and stuff will make a difference. I'm not entirely sure where I'm going to put these on my collection. Probably on a separate shelf to themselves. Ramen Toy are actually in the process of releasing a figure, John Thunder, I believe his name is, but I could be wrong, who was one of the unreleased figures with his battle suit, his exo-frame rather, and his assault weapon system. This is a figure that was unreleased in the original 80s line, and the figure they're doing for him is compatible with the original line. They're also bringing out a Hacker, who's one of the two bad guys, in this scale, and he's just gone up for early bird release in the last week or so. I will be ordering him because these figures are insanely good. I'm really enjoying them. Posability wise, they've got all the posing you would expect from this sort of size action figure, and they're actually really quite stable. I'm surprised at how well this is held up, because this is pretty much solid plastic. So yeah, that's really cool. And now he's doing a bit of a wobble. Oh, you can just leave it in the back of the booth there, that's fine. Let's do, for the sake of things, to end this, a PowerXtreme pose from Ace McLeod, so that he can receive his weapon system from Crystal in Skyvault. Huzzah! Does that not look awesome? The answer to that is yes. Yes, it does. Now, all I can say is I'm really hoping that Ramen Toy managed to get all of these battle suits, the assault weapon systems out and available before somebody slaps them with some kind of copyright notice. Weirdly, they're also doing some action figures for Silverhawks, another 80s stalwart, which those ones are actually licensed. So that's quite cool. It does mean that they might have the possibility of getting some licenses down the way. They do have a few more figures planned in this range, which I'm very excited about and very much looking forward to getting hold of. But they're also doing Mask next, which is also very exciting. It seems such a shame that some of these lines that were such interesting, well thought out and exciting figures in the 80s that just haven't made a comeback. I mean, you know how much I love Transformers, but Transformers has just been constant for the last 40 years, near enough. He-Man the same. G.I. Joe for even longer. Well, a real American hero, a little bit less. But things like Centurions and Mask, and even to an extent Thundercats, just haven't been around quite as much. And they haven't had any new versions. There's been like the odd G.I. Joe version of a Mask figure, but there's been no actual retread of the Mask line, and absolutely nothing with these guys, which is disappointing because they're just so cool. And having these, I mean, they would be made by Hasbro because they're a Kenner toy, so therefore they are owned by Hasbro for all intents and purposes. Would be awesome, and the ability to get, oops, it's not so great, this helmet comes off, the ability to have all the different weapon systems and have them at an affordable price. One thing I haven't mentioned with these, they are expensive. This set set me back somewhere in the region of £190, which for 3 action figures, even 3 what is effectively deluxe 6-inch action figures, even by Hasbro standards, this is about double almost what you'd be paying for similar figures from Hasbro. Are they going to be better quality wise or not? That's really really up for debate. Obviously a smaller product run that they have more control over. They've got more control over the QC, so less things will slip through the net, and yeah, so quality wise these should be better, but are they twice as much money better? I don't really know. I can't really answer that one at this point. I do really like them. I'm a big fan of these. They are pretty epic. In hindsight, would I have liked to have paid less for them, and do I feel that they are worth the amount of money I've paid? It's difficult because I've just got them in hand, I'm just playing with them, and I'm very excited by them, so it's tough to tell whether or not I'm really feeling the value for money, because at the moment I've just got nostalgia goggles on and just pleased and really enjoying them. But I do think that they are expensive. They are too expensive. And I couldn't collect the whole line. I definitely couldn't go back and get the other versions of these. I would not be a completist. But I do think that I will carry on getting a few more bits from this. I will just suck it up with the old price. But yes, I think I've waffled on far too long now, so I will let you go. Have a lovely time. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any thoughts or comments, you can put them in the comments. That's always a fun thing to do. Yeah, I've been Optimus Prime. Have a lovely day now. Goodbye.
Fingers on plastic.